The courtroom buzzed like a hornet's nest. Reporters shuffled papers, attorneys whispered, and the faint hum of fluorescent lights filled the air. But when Ava Thompson walked through the heavy oak doors, everything went still, like the room itself had paused to take a breath. Ava wasn't dressed like a typical defendant. She wore a crisp gray suit, her hair neatly pulled back, her eyes calm, too calm for someone standing before a wall of judgment. To the onlookers, she was just another black woman who dared to challenge authority. But beneath that calm surface, something powerful was brewing. The bailiff, a tall man with a thick mustache, barked. "Defendant, stand before the court." Ava rose slowly, her movements deliberate, graceful, the kind that came from years of discipline and dignity. Across the aisle, two uniformed officers smirked at her. Officer Reed and Officer Miller, the same men who had dragged her from her car a month ago, claiming she'd resisted arrest. The truth, she'd simply asked why they were stopping her in the first place. Now, they were here again, standing tall, their badges gleaming under courtroom lights, the very picture of authority. The judge had yet to enter. The air thickened. Reed leaned toward Miller, snickering. "She's shaking," he muttered. Ava wasn't, but her hands were clasped so tightly that her knuckles had turned white. The memory hit her, the flashing blue lights, the handcuffs biting into her wrists, her daughter screaming from the backseat, "Mommy, please stop hurting her." She blinked it away. Not here. Not now. Just then, the courtroom doors swung open again. A hush rippled across the crowd. The bailiff shouted, "All rise." Everyone stood as the Honorable Judge Matthews entered. But Judge Matthews didn't sit. Instead, he whispered something to the clerk and then nodded toward the officers. "Gentlemen, I'll be with you shortly," he said. "Proceed with decorum." As the judge stepped into his chambers for a moment, Officer Reed smirked and walked toward Ava. "You think you can sue us and get away with it?" he hissed under his breath. "You people never learn." Before Ava could respond, Reed's hand snapped across her face. The sound cracked through the courtroom, sharp, shocking, electric. Gasps erupted. Someone screamed, "Hey, you can't do that." Her cheek burned. But Ava didn't flinch. She just looked at him, a long, cold stare that made his hand tremble as he lowered it. "What did you do?" whispered Miller, his confidence wavering. The bailiff froze. Reporters raised their cameras. But before anyone could move, a stern voice thundered from behind them. "Officer Reed, step back, now." The crowd turned. Judge Matthews was standing in the doorway, his face pale, his voice trembling with controlled fury. "Officer Reed, you've just assaulted someone in my courtroom." Reed stammered, "Your Honor, she was disrespectful." "Silence," the judge roared. "Do you have any idea who you just put your hands on?" Reed blinked. "She's the defendant." The judge's lips curled into something between disbelief and anger. "Defendant? Mr. Reed, that woman is not the defendant. She's the acting Chief Justice Ava Thompson, temporarily assigned to observe this hearing." The room exploded in murmurs. Reed's face went white. Miller looked like he might faint. Ava finally spoke, her voice soft, but every word sharp as glass. "I was sitting quietly, officer. You mistook calm for weakness." Judge Matthews stepped forward. Chief Justice Thompson was undercover, part of a Department of Justice review on courtroom misconduct. "She was here to evaluate you." Ava didn't need to raise her voice. The power was in her calm. She turned her gaze toward Reed, then to the room full of stunned onlookers. "This," she said quietly, "is what happens when power goes unchecked." The silence that followed was absolute. Reed stumbled back, trying to explain. I didn't know who she was." Ava's eyes softened, but not out of pity, out of truth. "You didn't need to know who I was," she said. "You just needed to know what was right." Her words cut deeper than any punishment could. Ava had sat in her office at the state courthouse, reviewing footage of body cam recordings, case after case of excessive force, arrogance, and disregard for dignity. It wasn't new to her, she'd seen it all before. But this time, the governor had asked her to see it firsthand. So she'd gone undercover, quietly attending hearings across the state, blending in as a defendant, a juror, sometimes even a clerk, to witness what justice really looked like when no one knew she was watching. And what she found broke her heart. People weren't just being judged by their actions, they were being judged by their skin, their accent, their clothing, their silence. Justice, she thought, was supposed to be blind. But lately, it had been looking through one eye, and only at certain people. Judge Matthews took a deep breath. Officer Reed, Officer Miller, you are hereby placed under arrest pending investigation. Reed's jaw dropped. Arrest? You can't. I can, the judge snapped. And I will. The bailiff, now visibly shaken, moved forward, pulling out a pair of handcuffs. For the first time, the metallic click of the cuffs didn't echo around Ava, it echoed around them. Ava remained silent as the officers were led away. Reporters whispered frantically, phones out, cameras flashing. Finally, Judge Matthews turned to her. Madam Chief Justice, would you care to proceed? Ava nodded slowly and walked toward the judge's bench. Every eye in the room followed her. She placed her hand on the edge of the bench, the symbol of authority, fairness, justice, and for a moment, she just stood there, letting the weight of the moment sink in. Then she sat down. The courtroom was utterly still. It wasn't just a change in position, it was a transformation of meaning. The woman who had been struck now held the gavel. And she didn't raise it in anger. Ava looked around the room, at the trembling young public defender, the nervous clerk, the frightened defendant who had watched everything unfold. She began softly, her tone steady and warm. Justice isn't about power. It's about protection. It's about ensuring that no one, not a single person, is ever made to feel small in this room. The defendant, a teenage boy in an oversized hoodie, looked up. Ava gave him a small nod, the kind that said, I see you. She continued, this court is not a place for humiliation. It's a place for humanity. The boy's eyes filled with tears. For the first time that day, he smiled, just a little. Ava smiled back. Let's begin. As the courtroom emptied, a reporter approached her cautiously. Chief Justice Thompson, ma'am, may I ask, why go undercover? Ava paused, choosing her words carefully. Because sometimes, justice needs to see itself from the outside. Titles can make people behave. But truth, she looked around the now empty courtroom, truth shows how they act when they think no one's watching. The reporter nodded, speechless. Ava walked to the corridor, heels clicking softly against marble floors. A janitor, an older man with kind eyes, stopped her and whispered, ma'am, I saw what he did. I'm sorry you had to go through that. Ava placed a hand over his. Don't be sorry, she said gently. Be proud you still care. He smiled, a weary but genuine smile. Not many do anymore. She looked at him. Then that's where change starts. The video of the courtroom incident had gone viral. Headlines read, Undercover Chief Justice exposes police misconduct. From defendant to judge, the woman who turned a courtroom upside down. Some called her brave. Others said she'd gone too far. But Ava didn't care about praise or politics. She cared about something deeper, the shift she'd seen in people's eyes since that day. Judges were retraining their staff. Officers were attending empathy workshops. Even the governor had introduced new reforms for courtroom conduct. But what touched her most were the letters, hundreds of them, from people across the country. One read, thank you for reminding us that justice still has a heart. Another, from a young girl in Detroit, when I grow up, I want to sit in that chair too, the one they said you didn't belong in. Ava read each one. She smiled, sometimes cried, but mostly, she hoped. Ava stood by her office window, overlooking the city lights. Her reflection stared back, strong, scarred, but serene. Her assistant knocked softly. Chief Justice, the governor's on line 1. Ava turned. Tell him I'll call back. She looked at her reflection one more time, then whispered to herself. They'll remember not the slap, but what came after. And as the night deepened, the faint sound of distant sirens filled the air, not of fear, but of a world still learning, still trying, still changing.